Well, it's really good to be here, and it's particularly good, I think, to be here as it were a member of the family, because as you may know, I'm moving in, whether you like it or not. And so I'm looking forward very much to getting to know some of you a bit better anyway. And very grateful to Carolyn for all the work she's put in and for the invitation. So I would like really to give you 3 suggested reasons why, faced with an unbelievably contemporary problem, there's any validity at all in looking at texts that are 3,000 years old. It might seem a really obscure thing to do, but I don't believe it is, and I want to suggest why. So to bring it right up to the mark, I'm just going to share my screen here. Again, I hope you can see it okay and it's not too confusing. You can shift the side panels around if you want to see the whole quote. So just last week, a very important review came out about the economics of biodiversity. It's, if you like, trying to put money numbers or numbers on life on Earth. But what was interesting to me was that when The Economist ran a review of the review, they said, economics can certainly benefit from understanding better how nature contributes, but whether a better understanding of the economics of biodiversity is essential to improving humanity's relationship to nature is another question. Building the political will to prevent irreparable damage to the environment will require an appeal to values that are beyond the purview of economics. And this really takes us to the heart of the question, because the real issue is that the problem we're facing, and it's a significant problem. Let me just pull up a few things which people like Simon here on the call will know a lot more about than me. The situation we're in, where we're seeing this massive wipeout of the species with which we share the earth. I don't know if you can just run your eye down this chart and look at it. The red being where we are looking at damaged or lost or severely affected populations, habitats, species. This kind of a situation has essentially come about because of us, and it's our relationship with nature, if you like, that is in trouble. This is just to show you some of the depth of the study and the references that go behind very simple assertions like this, but there essentially is not much argument about this at all. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now for a minute if I can. That's going to be interesting. Because it's not.
You should be able to do it right at the top, Peter.
Yeah, thank you. There we go. So the first reason I want to suggest that the Bible is absolutely relevant to trying to understand what's going on is that most people working in this field think that the problem we've got is a human problem. I've had chapter and verse on that from all kinds of people over the years, but one of the ones that stuck with me most strongly was talking to Achim Steiner, who was then running the World Conservation Union, for which Simon worked for many years. And he said to me, actually, my job is not really about nature, because nature looks after itself. It's people that are doing this. And what changes people? And in a sense, it's a timeless question. And it's a question which the Bible directly addresses in multiple ways. But essentially, our environmental problem is a human problem. And that is why we look to the Bible for some kind of wisdom. As those of you who heard Charlie Cleverly preaching yesterday, and even my friend Jerry in Pennsylvania heard Charlie Cleverly preaching yesterday, which is very loyal. Um, you will have heard Charlie talking constantly about wisdom. As you've seen from the charts I've shown you, there isn't any lack of knowledge now about the situation we're in. But the question of wisdom is other. And for wisdom, we have to look elsewhere. So if the environmental problem is a human problem, and if the Bible has timeless insights that we need to look at, what are just one or two of those particular insights that speak to us most pointedly? Because the Bible is not an environmental rule book. Actually, it's not a rule book at any point in the sense of understanding rules as what are going to make a change. And so just let's have a look, if we can, at one or two of these extraordinarily pertinent comments, which I still find completely astonishing. This is a 3,000-year-old insight, which essentially is saying what's broken are the relationships. Hear the word of the Lord, you Israelites, because the Lord has I need to move my picture here, has a charge to bring against you who live in the land. There's no faithfulness, no love, no acknowledgement of God in the land. There's only cursing, lying, and murder, stealing and adultery. These are the social ills we're very familiar with. They break all bounds, and bloodshed follows bloodshed. Because of this, the land dries up, and all who live in it waste away. The beasts of the field and the birds in the sky and the fish in the sea are swept away. This is astonishing writing 3,000 years before we really understood what a marine crisis was about. Very, very topical. And it just seems to us as though the prophets understood that our broken relationship with God and our broken relationship with each other would inevitably lead to this kind of ecological catastrophe. And it's not just a question of looking in Genesis, it's throughout Scripture. You'll perhaps be familiar with this very uplifting psalm. And it just gently and seamlessly takes us towards the consequences for the land, both of our broken relationship with God, but also the potential for what might happen if that relationship's restored. May God be gracious to us and bless us and make his face shine on us, so that your ways may be known on earth. And then right at the end, the land yields its harvest and God, our God, blesses us. It's just natural in Bible thinking that our relationship with God flows over into our relationship with each other and then our relationship with creation itself, for good or for ill. And what's so wonderful about this study you're embarking upon is that here we have great resources for a restoration, not just of community relationships, not just of our own personal relationship with God, but we have these resources for a renewed relationship with the earth. And wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if God's people were known for the way that they were showing the way towards different possibilities? We hear a lot about building back better, but we should just be building better anyway, because we have a loving God who wants this all to work. So that's just a sketch of three reasons. First of all, because the problem we have goes beyond technology, technique, economics, politics, to a deeply human question. Secondly, Scripture, the Bible, this library of texts, talks to us very directly about how we can find hope in this kind of a situation and where the roots of the trouble lie. And finally, you should be studying these things because we can trust God's wisdom. It's not just beautiful, it works. What's fascinating to me to watch now as I see people like Bill Gates and others joining the debate with such a sort of vigorous way forward is that there is a growing understanding now that we can find ways of making investment and finance and business work regeneratively and not degeneratively. And I do think we as Christians need to recover our confidence that God's wisdom works. It's very practical. It's not just beautiful thoughts for some kind of world to come, but rather it can work on earth, as the Lord's Prayer implies.